Hello again, it's MA. I am going to do a response to Juli at Peekaboo Rose Standout Decks of 2022 hashtag, but I have a feeling because it's about 50-50 with oracles that I am going to end up doing another mashup. So that is probably what's going to happen. Thank you to everyone who's been stopping by and spending some time watching some of my videos and leaving me such nice comments. I do really appreciate it. I am someone who accepts harsh criticism way more easily than I accept kindness. So you've been stretching my boundaries by being so kind. And I appreciate it on many, many levels. So thank you. Let's get started. What I want to say specifically happened with me and decks when I came to selecting the ones I'm going to show for this hashtag. I really have started to listen to what decks have something to say to me, as opposed to which decks are saying something about me. And by that, I mean, I have a lot of beautiful decks. I have decks that I love to read with, but some of them I think I have brought in kind of that aspirational self, what I wanted it to say about my vibe, I have a lot of darker, edgier decks and decks that I think I love and use, but the decks I picked here are the ones that really had things to say to me, especially in the second half of this year. So to start us off, what you can see is already on the table is I've got my good old friendly standard starback universal weight with the titles and borders trimmed off. It's edged, the edging's wearing off, the edging had bled. It's kind of starting to soften the colors a little bit, but I don't care. Here's what happened with me in this deck this year. This was my only deck for quite some time. Then I started the collecting during lockdown, like so many of us did. No regrets, happy with what I have. But I was starting to use having so many variations of decks as a learning crutch. And I wanted to go back to just studying one deck to see, like, in order to find variations in meaning of the High Priestess card, can't I just do that with one image and using context and question and other factors to find the nuances of meaning rather than I need to pull a card with a different image. So when I went to Tarot Sleepaway Camp, I only brought this deck. I didn't even buy any decks when I was there. And I think maybe almost a month before that, I had only used this deck. So yeah, it really helped me go back to learning and studying. And I'm glad that I made that choice. So the other deck that I've got next to it, you might recognize, is Morgan's Tarot, which is, of course, not a tarot, but an oracle. And I have just been completely enamored of the wacky 70s vibe of this thing. The cards, like if I pull a card by itself, it doesn't necessarily make total sense sometimes, but in the context of a reading, it frequently just puts the aha light on, like this one. It just like turns on the meaning. And the thing it reminds me of is this, well, this is my 1980 falling apart copy of Ram Dass's Be Here Now. And yeah, that's what it reminds me of. It's like a dirty old hippie. And as far as pairing, I find it goes with everything, but I've really gotten a kick lately out of pairing this like pseudo medieval Rider-Waite-Smith with a dirty 1970 hippie. So yeah, so those two have been my good friends recently. Then here's the next tarot deck I'm going to pull out. And this one is the Herbcrafter's Tarot. And the reason this one is on the list, I bought this one early in 2020 And, you know, I was okay with it. I was kind of reading the guidebook. I would pull a card and read about the plant, and that was great. But it was this year where this deck finally clicked for me, and I think it was because, can I blame Lisa Papez? I mean, it's not because she talked about this deck, but it's because of the way she talks about, you know, when she's looking to buy a new deck, does she have other decks that are serving the purpose already? And for me, I was looking at the Spacious Tarot and another deck that were scenes that the reader would fall into. And I realized that, you know, if I treated this deck that way, it would fulfill that purpose. And I found that this became very much a comfort deck for me. And I could just fall into these scenes. Yeah, I just love, like, this was so, I can feel the warmth of the sun in this card, the Six of Air, Six of Wands. So that's how I ended up using this deck, is it's kind of a replacement for the Spacious Tarot. The plant stuff is there if I want to read it, but I've now gotten to a point where it's kind of optional because I'm sturdier in my bringing in the meanings of the cards, and I can just enter them as meditations. And not necessarily, again, I don't really pair my decks permanently with oracles, but this is another deck which was a little standout to me because it came in a Witch's Roots box, and I saw it and I kind of went, ugh. I'm so obnoxious. I just saw the box and I was like, oh God, no. And I wasn't even going to open it. And then I saw someone do a walkthrough of it. And I was like, what is my problem? This thing is adorable. And it's another one where, you know, if I have a reading, a couple of cards, and then I turn one of these over, it will just point the way of where the reading is trying to go. And I just found the little creatures, the honey mother. Sometimes the greatest magic lies in the smallest of forms. It's very sweet. I find it often has synchronicities with the other cards on the table. Look at this one's got, we ended up with the honeycomb and the honey mother. So yeah, two little standouts, both mass markets. And it took me a while to get into the Herbcrafters. And I almost didn't even open the Forest Fae. So that just goes again, once again to show me I don't know anything, including myself. Okay, this one just stands on its own. And this is the Ritual Tarot. So I love collage decks. I love to collect collage decks. But this is the one that really just, I can turn over one card and hang out with it. When I really have a question that I need to ponder quietly, I will pull one card from this deck and just hang out with it. I think it's fabulous aesthetically and reading with it. So yeah, a stunner on every level. Happy as a clam stands out for me. That is for sure. Not to mention soft velvet. Okay, what's next? Here it comes, here it comes. Okay, here's two that kind of go together. I'm going to show you together. Another kind of unexpected deck is the Radiant Tarot. It's very softly colored. It has animal heads on human bodies. It's everything that I should not like, really. But I found that this was a really effective and relatable pip deck for me. I cannot explain to you why I'm okay. Well, I think I can explain to you why I'm okay with the animal heads and human bodies in this deck and not a certain other deck. I think I can handle it when they're drawings, but not when they're photoshopped. And where I especially get freaked out is when the human bodies are at all, when the human bodies are a little too anatomically correct, meaning I could maybe handle a lion's head on a human body of a woman wearing a dress. But once you start to adding boobs or a pregnant belly, I get a little creeped out. I don't know. Is that weird? I guess that's pretty weird. The other thing, I know I saw someone point this out, maybe Tom Benjamin. This deck lays out really nicely in spreads because the way it's color-coded, it's really easy to kind of key in and see which suits you've got on the table. And what I also appreciate is, so here's a funny thing with me and color-coded decks. If I can see the color coding when I do this, fan the deck or shuffle it or at all, I get anxiety if I can tell visually that too many of the same suits are grouped together. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. That's a problem I have. So anyway, I've enjoyed working with this as a pip deck, which I thought I would want to learn a traditional Marseille, but I'm happy that this has been the pip deck that I've been working with. And now let's put an Oracle deck with it. And for me, I'm very excited that I did back Levi's Brother to Brother Oracle again for a lot of reasons. It's upside down. I love a square deck, man. I love a square deck. These have like this beautiful finish on them. I love everything about this deck. I love that there's masculine representation, but also it's working really well as an Oracle where it can really direct a reading. And what I've been doing a lot as my daily readings is I'll put 2 cards down and leave a space in the middle and kind of consider those 2 cards as a portal and how the cards relate to each other and how I'm going to navigate through them, or how the Oracle card is going to help me see how I'm going to navigate through that portal or how I'm going to join the portal. So I love to then just stick a card down in the middle. And these are I like that these have a lot of verbs as the keywords, and I've just been really enjoying working with it. I also like to use it with the Sacred Sisterhood deck, which is all female or all female presenting deck. So I like having that balance between those 2 decks. So yeah, Radiant, did I even say the name? This is the Radiant Tarot. Radiant Tarot. Okay, next pairing. I think I got this, I don't remember when this arrived. This probably arrived late 2021, and I didn't really start to work with it. I did a card by card, daily pull, and read the Book of Maps along with it at the beginning of the year. So maybe January and February into March. And then what I ended up doing with this deck is it's really become the deck where I pull a card or do a small spread when I need to know someone or some energy that's got my back, or to be reminded, or it's not exactly a comfort deck, but yeah, when I need guidance, really, this is the deck that I've been going to, and it's really helped me through some moments this year. And what I'm going to put with this as another deck that surprised me. It surprised me that I bought it at all. And this is the Modern Mary Oracle. It's from Redfish Tarot on Etsy. This deck, I love the backs. Look at the sweet backs. Working with this Mary imagery is something outside, very outside of my comfort. But working with this deck has been part of, I don't know what to call it other than spiritual recovery. I'm going to call it spiritual trauma, but it was nothing horrific other than knowing from a very young age that I did not have belief in the faith that I was being forced to participate in, and then not and not being allowed to investigate anything else. So it really soured me on any kind of community spiritual practice. It soured me on a lot of things. It was a lot to get through. So I have been able to work with this mother imagery. I consider this kind of an extension of work with Kuan Yin and Tara. And yeah, it's been a little bit humbling and softening. I think this is part of the softening that is aligned with the looking at decks that speak to me instead of about me. So yeah, I like the keywords on this deck very much. I will say there's one, and I'm just going to show this one because I want people to be aware it's in here. Again, I'm talking about myself and my decisions. I'm not saying anything about what anyone else should do or the creator. So I love the image on this card. I am not a fan of the phrase soul tribe for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think tonally, it's got like a kind of Coachella vibe that doesn't go with the rest of the deck. But also, you know, I try to listen to discussions from various groups of people about language and language that can be hurtful or harmful or triggering. And I am not speaking on behalf of anyone, but I've listened to conversations where persons from Native American, Indigenous, North American groups have talked about the word tribe. And I will say it's a word that I don't really like to see thrown around casually. I'm not really comfortable when I don't know the intent. And soul tribe to me is just like, you know, I'm not into it. So, you know, I'm probably going to either color over the words and replace the keyword, or honestly, I may just trim this card and use it for something else and take it out of the deck. But, yeah, that's been a standout, and pairing these two decks together has really, it's helped me grow this year. I think that's been kind of unexpected. So I guess I like surprises sometimes. Okay, here's the last kind of weird pair. So, oh man. Oh, here's my distressed copy of the Druidraft. Oh my God, me and this deck. You know what this is like? This is like every bad rom-com where at the beginning of the movie or the beginning of the series, like two people see each other across the room and they instantly hate each other. Oh, look at her. She thinks she's so big. Oh, I don't like her. Oh boy, I sure hate that person. And they bump into each other and, you know, and like, then 30 pages in, they're making out on top of the copier machine. Anyway, that's me in this frickin' Druidraft. I wanted to hate it so much. And this thing reads like in my face. It really just is an in my face read. There's some images I don't like that's our, you know, some of the depictions of the nude females are a little too nubile. However, just the way this reads for me, I'm kind of irritated, but I just have to accept that that's how it is, that me and this deck, you know, we've got a thing going on now. And so the thing with this deck is that when it talks to me, when I read with it and it tells me something, it can be a little harsh. I can feel a little taken down. So I'm going to talk about my last pick for standout, and this is the Outgrow Yourself Tarot and Oracle. I am in love with this deck. When I got it and I would pull a card, I mean, this is a deck, and I don't do this often, that I ended up wrapping up and leaving on my altar for a while. I don't know, it just felt really special and important to me. And this is a nice offset when when the Druidraft has given me a smackdown And I think this is an overarching thing for me too, is, you know, it's one thing to sit there. You can't just like do the shadow work and sit there and make a list of crappy things about yourself. Well, you can, but like nothing will come of it, or no good will come of it, right? The question is then, well, how do you accept that and love yourself and move on and change? And as that part of the conversation, I love pulling a card from here to go with messages that come from a pointier place. You already have everything you need. Cultivate your garden. And it's just lush, and it's kind of like creepy sexy, but not creepy in a pervy way. Creepy in a like scary, a little bit scary, a little bit naughty, a little bit like nature. I don't know. I love it. You're already there. Enjoy, be there. Find your purpose. Grow anything. Do something. Don't do nothing. Plant, forget, and harvest. Anyway, love this deck so much. And these were my standouts for 2022. And I think what I liked the most was surprises, decks that surprised me, and decks that helped me grow. So that's that. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.